We are taught that talent, hard work, and unvarnished honesty are the only requirements for success. The ancient philosopher Callisthenes operated on this belief. When Aristotle sent him to serve as a tutor and companion to Alexander the Great, Callisthenes insisted on speaking his mind, offering blunt, unfiltered truths to his commander. He spoke his mind once too often. Alexander didn't want a critic. He wanted a subordinate, and eventually had Callisthenes put to death. Offering raw honesty to power is a fatal miscalculation. Talent without political grace makes you a liability to the people who control your professional fate. Wherever power concentrates, whether in a corporate office, a social circle, or a political party, a court automatically forms around it. This environment is governed by unwritten, rigid laws. Violating those laws carries a steep price. In the late 1700s, the legendary arbiter of fashion, Beau Brummel, enjoyed a prime position in the court of the Prince of Wales. He ruined his entire career with a single, direct joke about the prince's weight, referring to his host as Big Ben at a dinner party. He was banished, dying in destitute poverty. Even trying to be helpful can destroy you if you ignore the boundaries of your role. In ancient China, a royal crown keeper saw his ruler sleeping in the cold and placed a coat over him. When the ruler awoke, he had the man beheaded, simply for performing a task outside his strict, designated duties. To survive inside any hierarchy, you must abandon your ego and master the subtle, indirect art of the courtier. The most successful courtiers are magicians of appearance. They actively conceal their own ambition and intelligence to ensure their master always feels superior. Consider the French architect Jules Monsart. Early in his career, he desperately needed to secure high-stakes commissions from King Louis XIV to work on the colossal Palace of Versailles. To do this, Monsart developed a highly calculated technique. When drafting plans for the royal gardens, he would intentionally include a specific, noticeable flaw before presenting the blueprints to the king. The king would inevitably spot the error and propose a solution. At that exact moment, Monsart would burst into a theatrical display of public awe, loudly confessing he would never have caught the problem, and that next to the king, he was but a lowly pupil. Monsart secured the prestigious role of the king's head architect by age 30. He won the commission not by proving he was the best designer in France, but by engineering a situation that made the king feel like a genius. Advanced courtiers also know how to balance competing egos among their peers. During the Congress of Vienna, painter Jean-Baptiste Isabey was commissioned to immortalize the peace negotiations. Both the English Duke of Wellington and the French diplomat Talleyrand privately demanded to occupy the center stage of the final painting. Isabey solved this diplomatic nightmare with a psychological trick. He painted the Duke of Wellington entering the Grand Hall from the side, manipulating the crowd's gaze so every face turned toward the English leader, making him the focal point. At the same time, Isabey placed Talleyrand passively in the literal geometric center of the canvas. Both men looked at the finished work, their egos fully satisfied. This careful balancing act is essential for disarming peer envy. The English landscape painter J.M.W. Turner once realized his masterpiece was hung next to the duller works of a colleague. To avoid outshining his rival, Turner literally washed his own glowing sky with a coat of black soot until the exhibition ended. Winston Churchill practiced the same deference. When publisher Henry Luce critiqued one of Churchill's landscape paintings, suggesting it needed a sheep in the foreground, Churchill immediately added a single grazing sheep, purely to validate the publisher's amateur taste. Strategically dampening your own brilliance and yielding to the subjective tastes of others is the price you pay to disarm resentment and secure powerful allies. There is one absolute, unbreakable rule of courtiership. The strings of your manipulation must never become visible to the master. Even the flawless Talleyrand almost ruined himself over a joke. To flatter Napoleon's love for hunting, he staged a boar hunt in a Paris park. Because there were no wild boars in the city, he secretly had servants release 2 enormous black market pigs for the general to chase down. After the disastrous pig chase, Talleyrand desperately doubled down to soothe Napoleon's bruised ego. He arranged a second hunt that afternoon, this time flooding the park with dozens of domestic, store-bought rabbits to simulate a wild shooting spree. Napoleon killed at least 50 of them, feeling highly satisfied, until an aide whispered in his ear that the targets were obviously tame market purchases. The truth was exposed, instantly shattering the carefully constructed illusion.
Napoleon flew into a rage, galloping straight back to Paris in intense humiliation. It took months for him to tolerate his greatest advisor again, and he never completely forgave the insult. The moment the deception is unmasked, a courtier stops being a trusted ally and immediately becomes a loathed, manipulative rogue. Surviving the modern world demands intense political dexterity and the absolute mastery of your own emotions. You have to distribute politeness as a strategic resource and obscure your own towering ambitions behind a veil of grace. The ultimate victory of power is pulling the strings so smoothly that the world believes it is moving entirely on its own.